up on a pretty little daughter. They tell me sugar dear.
Good morning and welcome back to another segment of Ask the Experts. I am here. My name is Juliet Simmons. I am a psychotherapist for the Ministry of Health for the Mental Health Program. Along with me, I have Miss Amy Jacks.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm happy to see there are 250 of you already watching, and I hope more people join us and ask questions.
Well, we're here this morning to talk about suicide prevention. This week is actually our Suicide Prevention Awareness Week. Suicide Prevention Day worldwide is September 10th, along with our September 10th celebration. I know we're all aware of that. So this year we're focusing, I want to explain the importance of suicide awareness. It's important that the Ministry of Health or anybody who partners with us in private practice or elsewhere, that we engage people, that we inform people about suicide prevention, about warning signs. We need to let people know more about how this can be prevented. So that's one of our big reasons for being on the segment today. So for this week, we have several activities or events going on. Actually, beyond this week, our activities stretch out all the way into October, where we go into World Mental Health Day.
Yes. I know that in previous years we had done a lot more for suicide prevention. We have had flag raisings, we have had community events. I know we've had, the orange and the yellow. That's our colors for suicide prevention awareness. So that is something we really like to talk about. And our color for mental health is green. So when we go into October, we wear a lot of green. We show our support with green. So we really look into those kinds of things. This year, the Mental Health Association is doing two events. Because World Mental Health Day and World Homelessness Awareness Day are both on October 10th, this year, we're doing a homelessness awareness week, especially through the Welcome Resource Center. It is one of it comes under the umbrella of mental health. So it is a drop-in center for people who would need a shower, would have a meal every day. So the mental health supports them. We are located, Welcome Resource Center support is in Belize City, but we also try to support other places outside as well. This year, for the Homelessness Awareness Week, which we are celebrating from the 1st to the 7th, we are doing a lot of activities on Facebook. We are doing everything virtual this year. So we would like you to join us at Welcome Resource Center on Facebook page. And join us on the Welcome Resource Center Facebook page. On the 1st, we will have an opening ceremony. We'll have an award ceremony on the 2nd. On the 4th, we'll have two things. We'll have a prayer for homelessness, which I hope you guys participate and share your information, share your videos with us. And Miss Juliet will talk a little bit about a TikTok competition, which is due on the 4th as well.
Well, for the Ministry of Health and the Mental Health Program, things have changed this year, obviously, because of COVID and all the precaution that we have to take. But what we're still doing is still raising our flag for suicide prevention. So the flags will be going up as of tomorrow. So look out for that in your district. Usually it's around your town hall or a very public area. These flags usually go up. There's a lot of other promotion going on within all the hospitals. There's different virtual conversation as well going on. And regarding that competition, yes, so to create more awareness, we wanted to continue with another video competition. Last year, we did one amongst the high school and the junior college, and it was successful. We had a great time with that.
And we still have some of the videos that you can find online. I think I will share them in the upcoming weeks as well. We had a few winners. We had, because last year the theme was around suicide. This year, our theme for World Mental Health Day is Mental Health for All, Greater Investment, Greater Access. But last year, for the past 2 years, we had focused a lot on suicide prevention awareness. So we have those videos and commercials that we will be sharing, and you will see
Right.
more and more on the media as well.
As well, yes. So to know more, to find out more about our TikTok competition for World Mental Health Day, please visit our website, the Ministry of Health, or Facebook page, Mental Health Association Facebook page as well, and Mind Health Connect Facebook page as well, to get all the criteria and how it works and what we're looking for. So please check out those sites.
And then we're planning on the 6th of October to have a peer helper day. We really want to get the peer helpers involved. I know being away from school is a little bit tricky, but the peer helpers still have a role. And even past peer helpers can become involved in this. What is your experience with peer helping? What have you done? How have you been of service to others? So we really want to bring that to the forefront as well on the 6th of October. Share with us on the Facebook page what you have done as a peer helper. And on the 7th, we'll have Homelessness Awareness Day, where you can share how you advocate, how you act in bringing awareness to homelessness and what you have done personally. And all of this will culminate on World Mental Health Day. We will be having a telethon. We will be supported by several media houses. We will be on Facebook as well. We will try to be as big as possible. Typically, we would have a banquet for World Mental Health Day to support and to bring in funds that we usually contribute to the Welcome Resource Center. But it's also really important that we have these events to bring awareness. So this entire week coming up to World Mental Health Day and the telethon, we will be on media, we will be taking questions, we will be talking about stigma and awareness of mental health issues and all of those things. So please join us and support the telethon. We will be having a t-shirt campaign that will be coming out in a few, maybe by the end of the week. We'll have our t-shirt, and please kindly support us. And of course, you share your pictures in your t-shirt on the media, on social media. We have 2 hashtags. Hashtag I support the homeless and hashtag, it's just the initials for World Mental Health Day. So hashtag WMHD 2020BZ and hashtag I support the homeless. So with these 2, we're really hoping to bring attention to homelessness and bring attention to mental health so that we can address the stigma.
All right, so Amy, we got some really good statistics from the Ministry of Health information system about suicide. We have, I know you had a little bit more time to play with the data than I did, so I'm going to let you take this on a little bit.
I almost did not sleep at all last night because I was excited by we usually don't have much information about suicides. And what we have to start off saying is that this data has been gathered through the Belize Health Information System. So that means that this information is mainly the information that has been gathered through the public health clinics and hospitals.
Definitely.
So we have information from 2008 to 2020. And one of the highlights that we have is that attempts and completed suicides have been decreasing over the past 5 years. So for 2016, we went to about 150 attempts going to the public health clinics. And last year, we had about 100. So that decrease is very important, showing us that raising awareness, challenging the stigma, all of that is bringing to the forefront that the numbers are going down. Remember, our population is increasing. So the fact that we are having less attempts and less completed suicides is good. Just to throw out a few numbers, in 2018, we had 30. In 2019, we had 25. And this year so far up to date, we have 8 currently. So
and from those 8, we have 7 male and 1 female, right?
Well, I did not break it down by year.
Yes.
But when we look, that's information that you've been able to see, because as working in the public system, you get a lot more hand to hand, I mean, face to face time with the people who come in. You get to see the data in real life. Whereas I work in private practice, so I'm a little
Right.
bit more removed. I will usually refer someone who is in a crisis, but we don't have a need to report the numbers. So the more of awareness we have, the more there is a call to get better numbers. So just like with other public health issues, mental health is a public health issue, and suicide prevention is a public
Public
health
health
issue
issue.
as well. So the more we can discuss it and the more information we have, the more there is a call to report. The more reports we have, the more we can do about it. So that's why it's always important to raise awareness, to discuss this. So to bring up a little question of gender, you pointed out that even this year there have been a higher number
Number
of male
males.
completions. Just to show over the past 10 years or 12 years, women have the highest number of attempts, but women will complete less than men. So men tend to be more fatal in their attempts. So more men will die. So even though women have higher attempts, maybe only 1 out of 5 women will die in an attempt. Whereas 1 man will die out of every 3 who attempt. So when we look at that information, it's a little bit scary because when it comes to health in general and mental health specifically, we have more access by women as well. So how do we reach out to the men in our community and say, we are here for your mental health as well? So that is one. I believe last week there has been an initiative that was launched to address more men in mental health. So these are things that we definitely are looking toward. It's not just depression, anxiety, schizophrenia, but we also look at substance use, alcohol use. Are you more stressed out? Are you aware of the things that are making you more stressed out? So we have this culture of more women seeking help, but we also realize that when it comes to suicides, men have more fatal suicide numbers.
Yeah.
When it comes to rates, we also see that rates of suicide have been falling a little bit in the past 3 years, as was noticed. But what strikes out again is that in a population of every 100,000 people, there is a higher number of men who will attempt and complete suicide than in the general population. So let's say there's 100 people. Let's see what the number is. Out of 100 people, maybe 9 people will complete suicide. Well, 100,000, it will be 9.
100,000, yes.
In 100,000, it will be 9. However, if we take 100,000 men only, then that number will go up to 15. Out of 100 people, if we take 100,000 women, only about 4 women will complete suicide. So when we look at that number is very alarming as well. So those are really important when we look at, when we target, how we talk about suicide, who we address those things to as well.
Okay, good. So in your statistic, do we have anything about the means? What are the most common means that are being used?
Yes, we do, and it's very tricky to see. We have maybe the top 5 means of attempts and completions include poisoning, which could include overdose, which is one means. Pesticides is another. We also have things like sharp objects, hanging yourself, and gunshots. So those are around our top 5.
Okay.
And when we look at it, majority of the attempts, 45% of the people who attempt suicide do so by using medication overdoses. So majority of the people who do attempt, 45%, will use poisoning or medication. But when we look at completions, The more fatal ones, 67% of the people who died from suicide, died by suicide, were because they tried hanging themselves. So 67% is a huge number.
That is a huge number.
And then when we have completions, we also look at pesticides. Poisoning by pesticides is also high at 12%, and gunshots at 9%. So those are the top three completions, which is very striking. You know, they're very lethal if you shoot yourself, if you hang yourself, if you poison yourself with a pesticide. Now, not to say that the people who overdose with medication are not serious about wanting to die, but what happens is that it takes a longer time, so it tends to be less fatal. In that time, someone could find you, someone could reach out to you, they could take you to the hospital, so it's less lethal.
Yeah, there's more time for intervention, yes.
And again, with the attempts, there are also sharp objects and poisoning with pesticides. So even though pesticides are lethal, there still is a window for intervention as well. Again, when we look at the statistics, when we think about it, men are more likely to do the more fatal ones like hanging and gunshots, which tend to have less window for intervention, and women are more likely to overdose and use pesticides.
Okay.
We have a little bit of a note on ages. There's not much that I really had time to look at, but when we look at ages, we really do focus on two age groups, 15 to 19 and 30 to 34. You might think these are weird age ranges. They're very separate. You would think, well, if 15 to 19, why not focus on 20 to 24? Yes, there is a high range, a high rate of suicide there, but our two highest rates for completion are 15 to 19 and 30 to 34. When we look at those two areas, developmentally, we are finding that you have a lot more turmoil going on in those two areas, either finding your identity or you are at the point where you have no idea where your identity is. So whereas in the middle you still have a little time of discussion, so it's very concerning. And so if you know someone in those age ranges and you see a little bit of difference in them, please have that conversation, talk to them, reach out, because those are the two areas of focus that we have. One more chart that I would like to talk about is our districts. That one, it kind of highlights a lot that when we talk about districts, historically, the Cayo district has had the highest rate of suicides. But over time, I know and I've seen over the past 5 years that there has been a lot of groundwork put into the Cayo district through the public health system, through private practice, through the schools, and their numbers have gone down significantly. So it is to the point where the number of attempts and completions in Cayo is so much lower compared to where they have been, and it's even gone from the highest to the second, and tied with second. And the concern then, yes, we have Belize City. Belize district has a large population, but their number is consistent with attempts and with completions. But the one that is concerning again is Corozal, because their attempts are really high as well. And their number has remained fairly stable over the past 5 years. So when we look at this information, the people who access the system, that's where we can find interventions and find ways, okay, we know we need to target this area, just like how the people in Cayo took that responsibility and stepped up and said, this is what we're doing, this is what we will start doing in Corozal and different areas. Of course, we do have data for every single district. We have suicide attempts and data completions for every age range. There is no age range, there is no gender, there is no district where you can say, we don't have that. So this is something that, as we talk about stigma, is very important to address that. It is everywhere. And what we need to talk about are the signs of suicide.
Yes, so let me get into some of that for you. For some of the warning signs now of suicide. So there's three areas that we really want to look into. We want to pay attention to what people are saying. What are they talking about? When people are contemplating suicide or have the term we prefer to use in mental health, they have suicidal ideation. They keep repeating and saying things that they want to die. And they also talk about having great shame over something that have been done to them or that they did. And they are sometimes it's just guilt that they're carrying with them for a long time. Or sometimes they also feel and they talk about being a burden to others. So these are things that you should be paying attention to if you hear anybody start talking like that. And know about your feelings. Sometimes people can express their feelings very well. And they would tell you that they feel empty. There's nothing in me. There's nothing going on. I feel hopeless. I feel trapped. I have no reason to live.
And noticing that language is very important, because when you hear people talk, you pick up on hopelessness, helplessness, worthlessness, frustration, and feeling overwhelmed. So those, in this time, it's very hard to kind of pick out, well, everybody is overwhelmed right now.
But right now,
We all feel overwhelmed in this time because our routines are out.
we're off.
We don't have our regular financial situation. Like, there's so many things that are off.
So these are definitely factors that would contribute to suicidal ideation. The unemployment rate, the financial stress that people are having. So these are definitely things that we do pay attention to. But I also want to mention that people talk, or they may mention about their unbearable emotional pain as well. And that is another high factor for suicide.
And sometimes, because we have limitations and gender roles, nobody will talk about unbearable emotional pain. So yes, it is there, it is present, but how do people express it? They will say, I don't
It's definitely
feel
not something that is easy to express.
I don't feel like myself, or things are just out of my control, or I don't think I could live this way, like you had previously said. And so they won't necessarily talk about unbearable emotional.
Well, they would say it like that, but
Yes. And so it's very much about picking up on little things about the language. Again, picking up on that sense of helplessness, picking up on that sense of worthlessness. So if you know someone who's always putting himself or herself down, if you know someone who consistently tells you, I really can't do nothing about this anymore, there's nothing else we can do, there's no way out. Those are the things you really want to pick up on.
And about changing behavior. Sometimes there's things that we can see that are changing in their behavior as well.
Yes, so when it comes to behavior, one of the typical ones that we would describe would always be giving things away.
Yes, definitely. Important things that people cherish.
Yes.
They tend to be giving them away.
Yes, and also not taking care of yourself, not showering, not brushing your teeth, not combing your hair, which in a time when a lot of us work from home, we're in pajamas all day.
Yeah.
So it's kind of really hard to pick up. Before, you would see maybe 25, 30, 40 people a day. And now they only see what you show them.
Right.
So it's really hard to pick up on some of these behaviors because we don't really see anyone physically as much. Are they sleeping, oversleeping? Are they not sleeping properly? That's one of the major things. Are they eating too much or too little?
And the social withdrawal as well. Well, right now we're in times where we're supposed to do practicing social distance and
physical distancing, Juliet. Physical distancing. And that is something that came out of mental health, because even the language we use really helps us feel socially distanced from others. So when you practice physical distancing and 6 feet away and wearing masks, you are still open to that social interaction that other people might have, which is super important to keep. So how are you keeping in touch with people? I know it's hard for students. One of the things I know I have to write a letter about is having activities for students. You know, they do need activities. Imagine having a math club online, or having a chess club online, or having a ballet group. And there are people who can help in these kinds of things. I know some schools have it, but there are a lot of schools who may not feel that they have the resources as they are adapting. So even usually the Mental Health Association has a speech contest, and I had a question yesterday from one of the participating schools. When are we getting more information? Because of all the things happening with school, we decided to postpone the speech contest until next year.
Right.
So maybe in January, late January, February, March, when things are a little bit more settled down, we'll have this activity. And that's why I'm really excited for this TikTok contest.
Right.
Because it gives students and young people and older people the opportunity to participate and do something creative, because creativity is something that really helps us through these times. Being aware of yourself, doing things that you like, really helps you with those things. Again, these counteract the signs that we see. So when we talk about physical distancing, how are you keeping in touch with people? Are you still in touch with the people who are important to you? Are they in touch with you? Have you checked in today? Who do you typically check in with? So I know we are going all over the place, but we're still
we're still talking about signs
uh-huh.
signs of suicide. So and then we want to mention too that taking dangerous risk.
That's a big one.
Yeah.
There is a little bit of a confusion between self-injury and suicidal behavior. And that's something I think we don't talk about enough
much,
during
no.
Suicide Prevention Week. But there is a difference, especially to you parents out there who are concerned that your child might be cutting, or your child might be doing something to hurt him or herself. It's very scary to know that this is out there. But there is a difference. Remember, with the suicidal thoughts, there is that idea that I do not want to live anymore. When it comes to self-injury, the idea is I am hurting myself because I get rid of this thing that I am experiencing, which
Right.
can be pain, it can be emotional
Emotional pain.
hurt, it can be a lot of these things that by hurting myself, I feel more alive.
Right.
Whereas the person who is suicidal is hopeless and feels helpless and worthless and does not want to continue living. Anything else regarding self-injury that you would like to know? Please ask questions. We're looking
please.
forward to them.
Okay. So let's now, can we go over and all right, we have a few questions here. So somebody is asking, where can we see these statistics?
Well, something I can do is I can post them to the Welcome Resource Center page by tomorrow. So as I said, they are from the
It's from the
Belize
public
health system.
Yes, it's from the public system.
Uh-huh.
So it's definitely will be on the Ministry of Health pages as well.
Okay, and the charts that I talked about, I could share and post them on the Welcome Resource Center website. So it's Welcome Resource Center. Just look for that on Facebook. Any other question?
Yes, there's this big question here. Why are you giving people ideas on how to commit suicide, especially during this time? First, before you get on, let me just correct the language here a little bit. That we don't say commit suicide. We say people die by suicide.
Or completed.
Suicide, right.
Or attempted suicide.
Suicide, and definitely there's attempt. Because commit brings that negativity to it, that it was
It's
a
also,
crime.
yeah, it's a legal
term. And it's suicide many years ago, decades ago, was considered a crime.
And actually, the Mental Health Association was
the
very
one, active.
important in decriminalizing the act of suicide as well, because let's say you had attempted suicide. What is the number for this year for people who have attempted suicide? Let me tell you right now. I close this, and so now I'm at a loss.
Attempts.
But the number of attempts this year so far are over about 52. Right? So 52 people who attempted suicide. Before the Mental Health Association was a part of the process of decriminalizing suicide, all these people who attempted would have been in jail right now.
Right, they would have been.
Because it's a crime to kill someone, even if that someone is yourself. So the thing is that this is a movement. Can I answer the question, or are we still with the language of it?
No, we're done with the language. We just cleared that down.
Okay. So when it comes to talking about suicide, we have to challenge the stigma. If someone already has the idea that they do not want to live, I am not going to give them any ideas, and you are not going to give them any ideas. You have to remember that we don't have that power over anybody to control them. There are situations in gender-based violence and maybe manipulation in a home, maybe domestic and interpartner violence, where there is a manipulation where one person will make the other person feel worthless, and eventually the victim in that situation becomes starts having suicidal thoughts. But no one can persuade anyone to want to complete or attempt a suicide. Remember, what we are talking about here is that the person is experiencing hopelessness, helplessness, and worthlessness. So when you have that combination and you feel that there is no best way for you to move forward than your life ending, that person will decide, this is how I want to do it. And they will not get ideas from me. There is way more information about the internet that is in a different context that will tell them exactly how to do it. Students, I don't want to say students, but clients have come to me and they have told me, this is what I have looked for online. This is exactly what I will do. I have had clients come into my office and say, I have a rope right underneath my bed. What can I do?
And I've had somebody told me too, I have my plan for 6 months from now.
Yes.
I just need to do these amount of things before I get to that. So people come already with these ideas. It's not coming from us. Okay, how much times we're on the media talking about suicide prevention and warning signs, the idea doesn't come from us.
And the reason why we tell you these details is for you to be aware. Let's say you have someone who has been talking about hopelessness, who has been saying, I don't want to live. The important thing is for you to approach and for you to ask, what's going on? Have you thought of not wanting to live? Because sometimes we don't want to use the word suicide, and there are times with clients when I don't use the word suicide, and that's okay. But the question behind it is, have you been thinking of not living anymore? Has that thought crossed your mind? So that's always the first one. Have you had the suicidal thought? When was the most recent time?
But Amy, I have done these presentations numerous of times. And one of the things that people always tell me is, that's a very hard question to ask. Because they're afraid of the answer. People are afraid to hear yes. And then they don't know what's the next step. So tell us a little bit more what
I guess as a therapist, I'm so used to the next step,
we are.
I don't even think about it. But thank you for pointing this out. Yes. So again, the first answer is yes or no. Have you thought about it? Yes or no. The second thing you have to remember, you're not the expert. You are not the expert. So who is the expert? Take them to an expert. So call for help. Call a boss, call a pastor, call the clinic, call a counselor, call someone. There's a hotline for mental health. I know Nurse Yvette was on here last week talking about mental health and where to get help. And that's the thing you have to remember. The most scary part is not if your person is experiencing a suicidal thought. The most scary part is if that person attempts or completes suicide
Suicide.
and you did not
Do
know.
anything, right?
Yeah. So even if you are scared, the fact that you are scared is the reason why you need to hear more of this, the reason why you need to challenge the stigma. Because when parents come to me and say, I'm afraid my child is suicidal, I go through the questions and I say, have you ever thought about suicide? Yes, no? All right, no. So yes. Okay, when was the last time? Oh, when I was in first farm. Oh, that was 3 years ago? All right, good. So then I talk to the parent and I say, yes, I'm very happy you have valid concerns. This is how we talk about it. So be sure to always ask. Be sure to always ask. Partners are people, our spouses, those sometimes we forget to check in with our spouses and our partners. We try to check in with our children, but what about our parents? Because, like I said, it's not just the 15 to 19 who are the people who have attempted and completed suicide. It's also in every age
Everybody. It's
range.
everyone.
I think the only one we don't have statistics for is below the age of 5.
I believe so. I believe that is
So,
correct, yeah.
so from everyone from 5 to over 65, we have
have data.
completions,
Yes.
completed suicides for every single age range. So again, going back to the steps. First, ask, approach. I have noticed there is something different in your behavior. I have noticed there is something off. I have noticed you're saying that life is hopeless. I have noticed, and quote them. Remember, the thing is to listen. Listen to what they're saying. Quote them and tell them, I noticed that you're saying that. So the second thing is say, have you thought about not being alive? What does that mean? And if you feel overwhelmed by that question, take them to a counselor. There are counselors countrywide. You can always reach out to the mental health unit in every polyclinic and hospital. There are a system through the EAP, through the
Sure, the public service, right?
Ministry of Public Service. That's a very important resource for a lot of people because the Ministry of Public Service works with every person in public service. So that is a huge network. If you are not part of those and you want to access private clinics, there's the Ministry of Human Development. You can call a social worker. There are so many people, so many places that have more information that you may have. And the thing is, you're not going to become a counselor today. So take them to someone who can help that person.
That's right.
So after you listen, you approach, you ask questions. So you listen and then you link them. It's not for you to take on a burden, especially with peer helpers. I find that they feel, well, I am the peer helper and I need to get you through this situation. Even those people, because we have peer helpers in businesses, we have HR departments, we have, peer helpers in schools. Your job is to then link to the person or to the places that can help this individual. Right. So you see a problem, you look, you listen to what the problem is, and you link. So that's the basic procedure for finding help for someone. Looking, listening, and linking.
What I just like to add to that too, Amy, is that you want to come off as, you want to be as very genuine as possible. You need to let the person know that you genuinely care for them, and that's why you're there.
And sometimes that makes a difference.
It definitely does.
Yes.
I mean, and it might be scary to go to a counselor or a therapist that, this is for the crazy people. That's what a lot of people think. That's one of our biggest stigma we fight every day. But you can also offer to go with them on that first session just to offer support.
Yes. And if they're not willing to go to the therapist the first day, they're willing to go to the doctor. Maybe they're willing to go to the pastor or the priest. Maybe they're willing to go to an auntie. And that really helps, having that person see that there is a support. One of the things that is one of the coping methods is having a list of your support system. It sounds very simple, but very often we feel I can't go to my mom with this problem. I can't go to my sister with this problem. I cannot burden my children with this problem. And so you take it on yourself. But
Self.
the whole point is to share that. Take on what responsibility is yours, but if it's not yours, let it go. All right. So we have been jumping all over the place. Where
Yeah,
do we go to
It
next?
kind of seems like we have. So, what about coping during this time?
All right. This time is tough. I think it's tough for everybody.
It is a tough time.
I think
know
that
what-
social media, even though you are watching me on social media, and I really appreciate that, I think we need to limit our social media. I think that is very important because we get bombarded by a lot of information about things that we want or we don't want. So it's very important to manage your social media. So I'm not saying delete your Facebook account. I think that Facebook has its place in our lives. I personally will delete my app on the during the weekdays, and then I will put it back on the weekends when I need to stream something, like if I need to
Interesting. I
stream
like
church
that.
service, or if I need to do that. And similarly, if you have Instagram or you have other things like that, you have to realize that you want to look and time your things. You don't want to read all the comments,
Right.
especially the negative comments. We
try
have
not
a
to focus on
culture of trolling. We have a culture of telling people a lot of negative things. We have a culture of criticizing, and we really like criticizing people. We like complaining about things. But in this time, we really have to focus on the positive, because who else will do it for you? You know, look at what we do have. We do have a fairly peaceful country. We do have resources that we have. We don't have everything that we need because we are a developing country, and we will need more time to get to where we need to be. And it will always be tough to figure out how to get to that next step when it comes to economy and things like that. So what can you be in charge of? What can you control? And always looking to those kinds of things. Media, you can control. So instead of having the news come to your inbox, I don't like WhatsApp for that. There are a lot of news things that the WhatsApp just pops up, but that's bringing a lot of anxiety. So when those things pop up in your inbox, you kind of get anxious. What is it? Is it good news? Is it bad news?
And you want to know.
Even the COVID statistics, you know, unsubscribe from it and go check on it when you are ready, when you are in a good mood,
Right.
so that you can look on the data, and you can, you know, say a prayer for the things that are happening and see how we can build each other up. I think one of the things that we really need to talk about is appreciation of what we do have. Appreciate what the ministries are doing, appreciate what the individual healthcare workers are doing, appreciating what there is and what we do have. We have a lot of things that we don't have that we're used to, but there's definitely a lot that we still have that we can build upon, and we need to start saying that we are thankful for those things and we appreciate them.
So, what about when somebody has this, like a tidal wave of emotion coming in that seems uncontrollable? What would you want to say to somebody who's suffering, you know, struggling with things like that?
Being overwhelmed is hard.
Yeah.
Learn to take a break, learn to relax, and learn to not take on everything, because we are at a time where people understand that you can't do everything right now. So if you can take your time doing things, remember that yes, you are a pillar in your family, or yes, you are the strongest person, but you are a human being too. And human beings will break down, they will have emotions, and you don't have to put on this mask for other people. The mask is for social distancing, for physical distancing, and to not
Right.
spread germs. It's not for you to put up a wall. And I think this is the biggest issue that we've had with this COVID, is that we have put so much barriers with other people. And so we end up in our own little world struggling. and feeling lost in our own little world. So when we do that, it's important to throw out lifelines and make sure that we have a support system.
Yeah, the support system is very important, that you know who your support systems are. I also like to tell people that emotions, the good news about emotion is that it's momental, that it comes and it goes. It doesn't stay with you forever. And you also have a lot of control over your emotions, and people need to remember that I'd like to tell people simple things like say the messages you say to yourself. Remind yourself that you're in the present. I am right here right now. And this will pass. And I am strong enough to be there for when this passes. I will get there.
And remember that you've been through it.
Perfect. That's
You
right.
know? And those are good reminders, because we tend to tear ourselves down, and we tend to put ourselves up as the weakest version of ourselves instead of the strongest versions of ourselves. So just remind yourself that you are, building yourself back up. Think of yourself as a plant. Who's nourishing you? Who's watering you? Are you out in the sun?
Right.
And that's called self-care. So you have to take care of yourself. Yes, you have to take care of others, but you really have to take care of yourself as well.
So let's look at some more questions. How do you help a person showing suicidal risk? I guess they mean signs, but will not seek help. Is there an intervention protocol?
Oh, I think you need to answer that one as a part of the ministry and what the protocol is.
Well, what we always say is that if somebody is talking and all the signs are there and you're seeing that and you don't feel that you can do anything else but be concerned, go to your nearest hospital. I know this person is saying that the person doesn't want to go. Well, if they don't want to go, then you have to stay with them. You have to care for that person and look after them and try continue talking, keep the conversation going, and how else you could help
I
them.
think as therapists, we've both been in the situation where we are with a client and we have to cancel the rest of our days.
Oh, yes.
And stay with that person until that person says, yes, I agree to go to the hospital. And 3 hours later, we are in the hospital at KHMH waiting with that client, because we understand the severity. Now, I think the gist of this is understanding severity. There are times that people will call me in the middle of the night and I will say, okay, you have to call the police. And they will say, but I don't want to call the police. I said, but they're the only ones who can come and intervene at this time.
Yeah.
So it really depends. If you know it's severe, there is something that we have to do that is a little bit extra. Very often I will call the psychiatrist or the doctor in the middle of the night and say, this person is coming over to the emergency room. I think this person needs sedatives or medication. Kindly,
Right.
kindly respond. So as someone who is not a therapist and you're just a lay person and you see this person struggling, remember, you're not in it alone. What is your support system as well? So reach out to your support system so that you can feel supported in this time that you are supporting someone else. So if you have this person on the line in the States, this is your person who you go to, because a lot of us have friends who are outside of the country and we can't see them. You just need someone to tell you, yes, you're doing the right thing, or yes, continue doing that, or maybe you can try something else. So what is your support system? If that person is really adamant, you might need to call the police. You might have to drag that person to the hospital, because remember, a mental health crisis is a health crisis. So you respond to it by going to the hospital.
That's right. And I think a lot of people think that there's no mental health services after 5 or on the weekends, because our clinics are not open then, which is true, but the hospitals are, and that is what you guys need to access, because then whoever is the mental health expert or on call will respond to that hospital.
Yes. And people are always on call.
Always.
Yeah. So I have been on vacation or work trips halfway across the world, and
you're
I get the call. That is true.
All right. The next question is, what resources are available? MOH that persons who need mental health support can contact. So what are the resources available basically?
We listed a few,
Right.
but there are very few. But
So we
again,
mentioned
the clinics.
the clinics. There's a mental health clinic in all polyclinics across
And
the
I
country.
know right now you have to call ahead because I know a lot of the polyclinics right now
And
have
we're doing appointments,
protocols
right?
for
right.
COVID. So you really should call ahead. If it's an emergency, they'll tell you something else to do. So try to call ahead as soon as you can. Then we mentioned the EAP
EAP.
through the Ministry of Public Service.
Service.
That's a really handy one. We have
The
human
human
development.
development.
They have counselors and social workers.
They have around the country as well.
Yes. And then
we have private practice people in private.
Yes, so those are the public system. With private practice, you can find a short listing on the Mind Health Connect website. So you can go and find them and see what they have on there. But we also have a network. If you call hospitals, they usually have people that they refer to as well. If you call someone that you know in mental health, if you call the clinics usually have one or two people in private practice that they reach out to as well.
Okay. All right, so
we haven't talked about teletherapy.
well, we need to just drop that in real quickly because we need to wrap up now. So
a lot of us in private practice and public service are doing online therapy because of COVID. So you may not be able to come in, and we've all adapted and adjusted, and some of us don't like it, but we understand it's necessary now in these times that we are doing counseling and therapy online as well.
Yes, at the ministry, I also practice teletherapy. So I'm not doing any more face-to-faces right now sessions, but my sessions I've been doing Zoom, I've been doing WhatsApp, and of course the regular telephone calls.
Yes, which again, it limits and is a barrier to how many signs we can pick up, because especially on the phone, you can't see, you just go by the tone of voice, and if the call gets disconnected and can't disconnect back, it kind of like throws you into a little bit of anxiety, but we're trying.
We're still here. So. All right. Well, I want to say thank you for your questions. And I want to remind everyone to practice physical distancing. Keep yourself and your family safe and stay at home. If you must leave home, be sure to have a mask on. Remember to regularly wash your hands. And if you must cough or sneeze, please cough or sneeze in your elbow or use a tissue and dispose of it properly. If you have any questions or concerns, please call our hotline 0800 MOH Care. Or visit our website, www.covid19.bc.